Yeah. I can never die, got a lit spirit. Billy on my mind, at 9 digits. Cheated one easy, now we no limit.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics, on testosterone, on using nutraceuticals and whatever we have available to us to make us feel, perform, and function awesomely. Thanks for being with me. I am your host, Ryan Michael Ballo. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell to get notified of everything that's pumping out of this channel. Get the YouTube app, my friends, because it will notify you instantly when we're doing live streams and when videos come out, and you're going to want to get those notes. A couple of products support this broadcast. I'll explain them at the end of this video, but for now, and especially to show you the end of the Cyber Week coupon code, number one, the Cortex stack, powerful mental energy. Like if you just want that motivated verbal fluency, clear brained mental energy, that's like dopamine centered, buy the Cortex stack. You can do it at livecortex.com. Torque energy for 6 to 8 hours. Highly motivating, highly stimulating, but it's a clean stimulant. Coupon code CYBER takes 35% off both of those products right now and ends today. So tomorrow when you wake up, that coupon code will no longer be valid. All right, friends, so I thought I'd do something different today and answer a question from a comment on YouTube. Comments on YouTube come through all the time, any hours, all hours of the day, basically, and I can't get to them all, right? I try to actually go in there and answer some of your folks' questions, but I figured it'd be a good idea to try to section some of the comments that I can't get to as actual videos. So here's one from Constantino 4842, which asks, what's the best combo for anxiety, impatience, agitation? Question mark. I first want to say, like, you're grouping three things together that may have separate causes, but assuming that they're at least somewhat similar, I would say the first thing you should do is step away and see, like, is there anything that needs to be removed from your situation, right? Like maybe you have a supplement in there, a nootropic, a set of nootropics, too much caffeine, your testosterone's too high. I don't know, you're around a toxic person. That'll sap your energy certainly and make you anxious and agitated and impatient. It's definitely a thing. I would do an audit of everything you're taking as a first primary step. Right? I'll get to some other steps in a second, but you got to start there. You don't want to be adding additional things into your regimen to tone you down when really you need to remove one thing or the other, or modify the dose of something, or just like stop doing something. So if there's something that you're doing, whether it's nootropics or coffee, or your test is too high, or again, you're around like a person that makes you anxious, or you drink a lot, the post-acute phase of drinking, as well as subsequent phases throughout the rest of that night, and even especially the next day. I mean, if you're used to boozing, whenever you're not boozing, you're gonna be impatient, agitated, and you're gonna have anxiety. So look at the things that potentially you may need to remove and see if it resolves. Now, moving on to like some practical strategies as far as supplements and other nutraceuticals go. The first thing I would look at is cortisol. Okay, so cortisol, I would test it too. I'd go test cortisol. Your best bet for that is just to go to discountedlabs.com, no affiliation, but it's super easy, and buy a cortisol blood test. It's way cheaper. That's why they call it Discounted Labs. Honestly, the best place ever than like a doctor's order and then going to Quest or something. They'll give you a lab requisition form. Go to Quest near you and draw your blood and get your cortisol tested. If it's above the reference range or pretty close to the high end of the reference range, then yeah, it's safe to say that's probably causing your anxiety, in which case you would want to skip through all the bullshit you may hear on the web, as far as meditation, etc., or whatever, and just take phosphatidylserine, okay? Phosphatidylserine. And I'll point you to a paper called The Effects of Phosphatidylserine on the Endocrine Response to Moderate Intensity Exercise, in which they take, I think it was 10 healthy male subjects. These are actual human beings, and they put them through a set of intense exercise. I think they were pushing for VO2 max and ended up at 85% VO2 max, had them execute a 15-minute session of intense exercise, and then they measured a few things in their blood: cortisol primarily, growth hormone, testosterone, lactate, and testosterone to cortisol ratio. And they had a placebo group, and then they had a phosphatidylserine group. And in the phosphatidylserine group, the levels of cortisol in all of the subjects were lower. The results pretty much speak for themselves in this regard. They go, phosphatidylserine and placebo supplementation had no effect on lactate or growth hormone levels. No surprise there. But the findings suggest that phosphatidylserine is an effective supplement for combating exercise-induced stress and preventing the physiological deterioration that can accompany too much exercise. Phosphatidylserine supplementation promotes a desired hormonal status for athletes by blunting increases in cortisol levels, okay? You can't really find much more proof than that, and I like to skip right to the validated science. Phosphatidylserine is a powerful chemical. Now, in this particular case, they had them taking, 600 milligrams per day, okay? So, in studies, they usually push for the highest tolerable dose or higher doses than I would usually start people out on. So, I'd start taking 200 milligrams a day phosphatidylserine. That would be the first thing if you've identified cortisol as an issue, even if it's not over the reference range, but you want to try to lower it and see if that helps your agitation, your impatience, and your anxiety. Step 3. If cortisol is not the issue, it could be other neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, dopamine, glutamate. If those neurotransmitters are imbalanced and particularly skewed on the high side, then yeah, they can make you feel anxious, that you can feel impatient and you can feel agitated, particularly because they may be imbalancing some of the inhibitory action your brain naturally has in motion in order to calm you down, like GABA and serotonin. In those cases, you're always going to want to increase either serotonin or GABA or both. And I would do it in this order. The first thing I would do is just try to increase levels of GABA. And the best way to do that, again, cutting through all the bullshit, is just to take a chemical called picamilin. You can actually get powdered picamilin. You can get supplement, capsule picamilin. It is a bioavailable, meaning, crosses into the brain, into the blood-brain barrier, affects brain chemistry version of GABA. It's basically a B vitamin, like synthetically bonded with GABA, which is like the way you get it to actually cross into the brain, as opposed to like a regular GABA supplement, which will still give you some GABA and still affect brain chemistry, but not at the level that picamilin will. And I would start dosing that at 100 milligrams a day. Okay, 100 milligrams a day. See if the anxiety issue goes away in 2 days, 3 days. See if you get instant relief from taking picamilin, and then kind of go from there. Now, as an alternative strategy, and then kind of we'll get into combining these things, you could just shoot for increasing GABA, sure, but mostly modulating serotonin, and you can do that with L-theanine, the amino acid L-theanine. And I would be taking that at somewhat high doses, 250 milligrams a day, to tame that anxiety, kind of agitated, impatient response. Because, you take 50 to 100 milligrams of it, and it just may not be enough, and it usually isn't for most folks that have that outcome. So start dosing 250 milligrams of L-theanine a day and see how you fare with that, right? If all else fails, do that. See if that helps you. Because what theanine is going to do is give you more net concentrations of both serotonin and GABA. It's actually super clear in the literature that compound does that. Also tends to, or can, induce an electrical frequency state in your brain called the alpha brainwave state, and that's the state that we get into when we meditate, at least some of us, right? It's one of the states you can get into. It's a calming, serene, sort of peaceful state. So without meditating, you can just take theanine and induce that state. In fact, when I got out of the Army and was dealing with heavy PTSD and was like, I could never relax, theanine was one of the first compounds that I used to try to calm my brain down, and it worked. Last ditch effort, if none of that works, you could try combining everything together, in which case I would change the doses. I would dose it thus. I'd dose 100 milligrams phosphatidylserine, I'd be dosing 50 milligrams picamilin, and 150 milligrams L-theanine. I'd dose them all together whenever this is happening, or as a maintenance in the morning, and see how you fare. It may be the case that, modulating cortisol as well as modulating GABA and serotonin downward is going to help you ultimately to feel better. Constantino SK4842, really appreciate the question. Thank you so much for asking it. Again, if you guys want to ask questions like on the on the YouTube app, like commenting, I will try to get to as many as I can. It's just like something to throw in there to get some content in, to bring education to folks about what I know, and just sort of to keep the conversation going. Pleasure hanging out with you guys. Remember, coupon code CYBER saves you 35% right now on both the Cortex and the Torque Nootropics stacks, as well as the 6-month consult for those of you thinking of getting it. Here's the deal. deal. It goes away tomorrow. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, the coupon code CYBER will no longer be active. Everything goes back to regular price, which is still an amazing price for incredible products. But hey, you want to take advantage of the Cyber Week specials. So core tech stack, motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency, and brain fluidity. Imagine clearing your brain, but also being motivated, energized, and having that like productive drive to get stuff done. That's what Cortex does. Get it at livecortex.com. The link is down below in the description. Coupon code CYBER, 35% off literally right now. Ends tomorrow, my friends. Secondarily, Torque. Now, Torque is different. Torque is definitely a different animal in its own class. Torque is for 6 to 8 hours of straight, clean, stimulant, motivated energy. Like if you want that and you've got stuff to tackle or you just need to be really productive for a considerable period of time, take Torque. It is made to be taken daily, okay? It's the kind of nootropic stack that doesn't lose efficacy over time, that you don't really need to cycle, that isn't going to give you like weird sides, that can be taken pretty consistently and allow you to function awesomely, like streamlined throughout the week. There's a lot of people that take Torque every day, Monday through Friday, and they function incredibly because of it, right? Much more productive, scores more motivated, have a lot more energy. That's what Torque was built for. The most purchased nootropic stack on the internet. Very, very strong nootropic. Buy it at livecortex.com. Again, coupon code CYBER saves you 35% right now. That coupon code is going away tonight. It will not be there tomorrow morning. Also on livecortex.com, we've got Nootropics Courses, like 5 books that I wrote about nootropics. So, all those are 35% off as well using the coupon code CYBER. Hosts of consulting programs, whether you want to have an individual call with me, a 3-month program where I design your entire nootropic and otherwise regimen, or a 6-month program. And you can book all those consultations at livecortex.com. Those links in the description below as well. Appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you so much for being with me. Probably a live stream later. We'll see. If not, definitely tomorrow. It's been awesome hanging out with you, and I will talk to you soon.